Hey, what's up guys? My name is Ale. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for my monthly update video, and I know I'm a little late this time for November. I had a lot of stuff thrown at me outside of YouTube, but I promise I'm going to be spending more time on the channel going forward. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe because that really helps the channel, helps me make more videos for you guys in the future. But with that said, it's time to update you guys on three specific topics. Number one, the current state of the economy and the stock market on a more macro level and how I feel about everything that's going on. And of course, this month is pretty important because we just had the elections. There's still a lot of crazy stuff going on with that. And on top of that, we also have some updates on the global health crisis that we're currently going through. So we're going to talk about all of that. Topic number two, we're also going to talk about what stocks I bought and sold over the past month, which was of course October 2020. And finally, we will cover topic number three, which is what stocks I'm thinking about buying or selling this month. And that is of course November 2020. So it's just a fun little series that we do on the channel. It's a little more personal. I get to share my opinion with you guys on everything going on, and I really enjoy this series. So I'm excited to get started. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Topic number one, let's talk about the election, the global health crisis, and let's talk about the stock market overall. Okay, so starting with the elections. Now, obviously, this is a very touchy, very sensitive subject at the moment. On the left, you've got your Democrats, many of them feeling extremely happy and celebrating what they feel is a very clear Biden victory. And then on the right side, you've got your Republicans, many of them feeling like they just got cheated out of an election, and they're making very serious accusations like voter fraud and other stuff as well. I'm not going to be giving any kind of political opinions here, but as far as I'm willing to go is to give you some advice and say, just stay calm, be patient, and let the process run its course. And in my opinion, we should be investigating this and we should get to the bottom of it because I think it's important for both sides. For Democrats, if Biden did in fact win fairly without any kind of cheating or anything else, then we need to know that so that we can trust our democratic process and we can unify both sides and get together and get behind Biden and support him as a president. If, however, him or the Democrats cheated in any way, then that needs to come out so that we can rectify it, put the rightful president in place, which assumingly would be Trump, and unify behind him and support him. And I'm talking about unifying and supporting as if that's even possible with these two sides, which we all know is not because they hate each other. It's 2020. Everyone hates each other. Nobody's going to be supporting either side. It's just a sad reality that we live in. It's very unfortunate. I feel you guys' pain. I'm sure there's many of you on the other side of the screen wishing that we could all just put politics aside and be respectful to each other and get along and still be friends and lovers and whatever else and family members and all that kind of stuff. But it's just, it's whatever. All of this stuff is out of your control either way. I just think that we do need to get to the bottom of this, let the truth come out, let the facts come out so that we can at least get someone up there as president and move the country forward heading into next year and into the next 4 years. But so again, just my advice for you guys, just stay calm, be patient, let the process run its course. It's out of your control. So don't stress yourself out. Don't do anything crazy. Let's just see what happens and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, now with all of this craziness going on, you would think that the stock market would be crashing, right? Because the stock market hates uncertainty. And we kind of don't even know who the next president is going to be, although obviously each side would claim victory at this point. But there's just a lot of uncertainty and kind of craziness going on. And we don't know exactly how everything's going to play out. But instead of the stock market crashing, over the past week, it's actually been going up and performing pretty darn well. And in my opinion, there's really two primary reasons for this, and not to get all political on you again, but it looks like the initial kind of surge in the market was because it was looking like we were going to have divided government, which we all know the market generally likes. It likes that kind of gridlock. It doesn't like extreme policies being able to be thrown into the economy and to the country. It likes just kind of complacency. It likes a lot of certainty. It likes things staying relatively the same. And that's usually what you get when you have divided governments and you've got a lot of gridlock. So it was looking like Biden would take the presidency. It was looking like Democrats would also retain the House, but it was looking like Republicans would retain the Senate. However, as time has gone on and the election kind of has progressed, now it's looking like there's going to be a runoff election for the Senate. Basically, the Senate is going to be up for grabs at this point. There's going to be two runoff elections in Georgia, and that's going to be in January. And so whatever happens there, that will determine the fate of the Senate. So going into next year, really a couple months, we're not going to know what's going to happen with the Senate until then. So you would think that the market would kind of come back down because of that uncertainty, because we don't exactly know what's going to happen with the Senate yet. But no, the stock market actually shot up even more. And the reason why brings us to reason number two, which was that a lot of good news came out for a V shot for the pepperoni that sent the three major indexes shooting up even more over the past week. Over the past 5 days, the tech heavy NASDAQ was actually the worst performing of the bunch as antitrust concerns continue to keep that index pretty volatile, but it's still up over 3% in the past week and close to 30% year to date, leaving it now trading for almost an all-time high. The S&P 500 did a little bit better in the week, up over 5%, and is still up close to 10% this year, while also trading for pretty close to an all-time high. And finally, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had the best week of all as they soared by over 7%, although they are also up the least year to date at just about 3%. But even despite that, they too are now trading at practically an all-time high. By the way, I'm recording this on Tuesday night, so maybe prices change a little by the time you see this. Either way, though, no matter how you slice it, the markets are all trading at very high levels at the moment. Might be good reason for it, though, as Pfizer just announced that their pepperoni V-shot is 90% effective, leading to the belief that we may not be that far away from opening our economies back up in a more meaningful way. Keep in mind that it could even be receiving FDA approval for emergency use by the end of the month, which would be a pretty big deal. And all of this was also coming off of better than expected economic numbers that were recently reported as well. While the unemployment rate had initially surged to a record high since the Great Depression because of the pepperoni lockdowns, it's since been falling back down as we continue to slowly open things back up. In fact, in October, we saw unemployment fall below 7%, which was not only less than the 7.7% expected, but it's also significantly lower than the highs we saw during the Great Recession and even in the few years that followed. On top of that, Mitch McConnell called for a stimulus package to get done by the end of this year after having been re-elected to the Senate, saying that he's optimistic both sides can come together after the election to work on something for the people. And that's obviously something that would be very much welcomed by the markets. So as it stands, we're really dealing with a bit of a mixed bag here. Obviously, we know that the markets hate uncertainty, and when you look at the presidency and the Senate races, I can't think of a better term than uncertainty. So it is a little surprising that the markets are trading so high at the moment. On the other hand, there are at least some very optimistic things happening as well. So I'm just feeling a little bit kind of frozen in time. I don't really know what to make of any kind of short-term movements or thoughts here in the market right now. I really wish that I could just kind of fast forward a couple months to get some more clarity on where things are headed. But given all the kind of chaos going on right now, I just don't think I'll be making any really big moves. However, I am still making some smaller moves here and there. So I definitely did do some buying and selling last month in October, and I'll probably be doing some more buying in November as well. So let's run through all of that right now. Okay, so as far as last month goes, starting with the selling, I did actually sell completely out of one of my stocks, and it was actually a brand new one that I had only just purchased the month before, and that's the video game giant Electronic Arts, ticker symbol EA. And this was a really small, mostly spec position for me at less than 1% of my portfolio, but I just almost immediately regretted buying this one because even though I do think that they're a great play on the high growth video game market that I'm sure will only get larger in the future, I just really don't like the way that their management team has handled their IPs, whether that was by literally telling their upset customers to not buy their newest Battlefield game, which has to be one of the stupidest things I've ever seen management of any company ever do, or the fact that they continue to sit on one of the largest, most lucrative IP licenses out there in Star Wars without really taking advantage of it in a meaningful way, which, by the way, even when they did release a big budget game for it in Battlefront 2, they riddled it with microtransactions that only angered the fan base even further. And that's not even mentioning the fact that they continue to release sports games every year that, in my opinion, only continue to get worse with every iteration. Still, I was willing to give EA a chance thanks to their very impressive list of IPs and brand licenses, but I just think they've handled them very poorly over the years. And even though I do think that they'll still find a way to turn things around in the future, I just think that there's better investments out there with more competent management that won't give me as big of a headache every time they release a product. Now, the only time that I purchased this stock myself was right around $125 per share, which I showed you in last month's video. And I did go ahead and sell that at around 130, which was only a tiny profit of less than 4%. Turned out to be a good move though, at least in the short term here, as the stock has now fallen to less than 120. But I don't think that I'll be buying again unless it were to fall quite a bit more, maybe to around 100 or so, then I would be interested again. But as of right now, just not a stock that I'm really all that interested in, even though I do think that they will have a good future. Anyway, that was my only sell for October. Let's now talk about the buys I made. And as has been the case for much of this year, I did go ahead and buy some more of my favorite dividend stocks, with one of those, of course, being AT&T, which I went ahead and bought for as little as $26 a share, which I feel was an incredible price for the stock. It has climbed by a couple dollars since then, but even at this price, AT&T is still yielding a massive dividend of over 7%, which is pretty incredible. I did make a much greater detailed video on AT&T recently, so I won't talk about it too much here, but the gist of AT&T is that you guys know they continue to be a very poor performing stock due to the struggles of their legacy businesses, coupled with the pepperoni lockdowns only making things worse this year. But I am optimistic about their future, and as long as it trades in the $20 range and that dividend doesn't get cut, I will likely be buying more of the stock in the future, maybe even this month. Now, another dividend stock that has become a bit of a regular in my E-Trade account as well has been AbbVie, ticker symbol ABBV, currently my favorite pharmaceutical stock. And I went ahead and picked up some more shares at what I also felt was a really good price, with the lowest purchase at right around $80 per share. Unfortunately, since then, and mostly during this past week during the elections, the stock actually soared to almost $100 a share, and a new 52-week high, or it got very close to a new 52-week high. So I probably won't be buying any more this month unless they do dip back down, which isn't looking too likely though, as the consensus around Wall Street is that Republicans will likely win the Senate, which, even though both Trump and Biden want to lower drug prices that might hurt the pharmaceutical industry, if there's divided governments, then there's at least a lower chance that really extreme changes would get passed. And that's what likely sent the stock climbing. For example, an SVB analyst wrote that even though drug pricing and reimbursement reform have seen support from both Democrats and Republicans, the supermajority requirement to pass major legislation will likely shield the biopharma industry from the most controversial reform. So basically saying that they'll be kind of protected from really extreme changes. Still, the dividend continues to look attractive even at these levels, as they currently still yield over 5%. Like I said, I probably won't be buying more unless they dip a little, but for now, it does look like it was a great purchase for me back in October. Okay, moving on to another dividend stock I bought more of. That was actually my favorite dividend ETF, called the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, ticker symbol VYM, which I've been trying very hard to build into one of my larger positions in my portfolio, since they're still technically down this year and pay out a very nice dividend. I am up a bit on my position already, but in October I was still able to get it at a pretty low price of only around $81 a share. Since then, it's already climbed by over 7%, so it's not quite as attractive as it was last month, but even now the dividend is still yielding over 3%, and as long as that continues, I might actually pick up a little more in November, just because I do really like how diversified this ETF is, and I think it'll be a long-term winner for me, especially if they dip at all in the next few weeks. And finally, the last stock that I decided to buy more of last month was a little mobile gaming spec stock that I actually just bought for the first time the month before. And you guys know me, I like to buy my stocks kind of slowly when I first get into them, but I'll kind of continue doing that. And that's why I went ahead and picked up more shares in October as well. But that is Glue Mobile, ticker symbol GLUU. I've already talked a bit about them in the past, but it's essentially a very high growth company that just recently started to turn a profit, and with many popular IPs, including a licensing deal with Disney, I just feel that this is a stock that I'd like to gamble on very long term. It's a super volatile stock, as you can see on this 5-year chart, usually trading for less than $10 a share, and their 52-week low was actually less than $4, so kind of considered like a penny stock at times, but I plan to hold it for many years, as I really think that the upside is pretty high, even though they are also a pretty risky stock. Either way though, I went ahead and picked up some more shares here in the low $7 range, and that's where I feel the most comfortable buying at around 7 or less. So I'll probably wait to see if they do dip back down a little, because now they're already above $8 again. But with a forward P ratio of less than 20 and expected sales growth of over 30% this year, Glue remains one of my favorite spec stocks out there. By the way, they just recently announced earnings for the third quarter as well, and it was record-breaking revenue that was up almost 50% year over year. That was very impressive, and I was happy to see that. Anyway, not too much crazy movements back in October. I just kind of played it safe and stuck to some of my more reliable stocks that I like to keep adding to, and that may continue into November here in November, especially with like AT&T and VYM. However, there are also just a couple other stocks that are very high up on my radar right now that I would love to pick up in November. So I just want to quickly mention those to you right now, and then we'll wrap up the video. Okay, first up, you guys know that Microsoft is my largest stock in my portfolio, and because I haven't purchased much of them this year, the percentage in my portfolio has been going down a little, so I'd like to buy a little bit more just to kind of beef it up. Now, right now, the stock is still very high, a little less than 9% down from their all-time high, but I always feel like a double-digit drop for Microsoft is a good time to buy the stock since they rarely ever dip at all. So if it were to fall maybe just a couple more percentage points from here, I'll probably be picking up some more Microsoft shares at that price. I also noticed today that, and again, this is Tuesday, I also noticed again that today, Alibaba had a very nice dip, dropping by about 7%. And if that continues to drop a little more, I might want to buy some more of that stock as well, since they're easily my favorite Chinese stock. I actually just talked about them in my best stocks to buy if Biden wins the election video, because whether you agree with it or not, I think he'll very likely be friendlier to China than Trump was. And today's drop was because China is implementing new regulations on tech companies that they feel are running monopolies and not giving competitors a fair chance at competing, which, by the way, is pretty hilarious coming from China, who is one of the shadiest countries in the world. But either way, like most antitrust rulings in recent history, I just think that this will likely do very little in terms of stopping Alibaba's growth and future success. So, like I said, if it sells off even more from here, I think that would probably be an overreaction, and I might want to pick up some more shares of that too. And finally, the other stock that is near the top of my watch list right now is Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE. No surprise there. And granted, this may seem like a really dumb time to jump in, given that their V-shot news has already come out and it already lifted the stock by over 7% on Monday. But if we actually zoom out to the past 5 years, we can see that not only are they still in the red this year, but because they've had such a bumpy ride in recent history, the stock is still only up by less than 15% over the past 5 years, leaving them with not only an attractive valuation, but also a very nice dividend as well. Currently, the stock is trading almost 50% cheaper than the sector on a forward non-GAAP P ratio basis, and the dividend is very nice at close to 4%. Now, granted, the company is spinning off part of their business in a merger with Mylan to form a new company called Viatris that will lower that dividend, but existing shareholders will still receive stock from both companies, and they're both expected to continue paying dividends in the future, so it'll likely change by very little. Add to that the almost 90 different projects that they have in their pipeline, coupled with the new good news about their V-shot success for the pepperoni, and this is actually a stock that I think I'll probably be buying for the first time ever this month here in November. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. So there you have it, guys, how I feel about everything going on, what moves I made in October, what moves I'd like to make in November. I hope you guys enjoyed this update, and I've got more videos coming for you soon. Let me know what moves you guys are making in the market. What stocks do you like? How do you feel about all this political stuff going on? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can, but thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Thank you for all the support. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.